In this episode, let's explore the legendary land of Ali Baba and the 40 thieves and Uzbek folk hero Nasreddin Effendi. Bukhara is more than 2,000 years old, and it was situated on the ancient Silk Road and inscribed as UNESCO World Heritage in 1993. It is the most complete example of a medieval city in Central Asia, with an urban fabric that has remained largely intact. Between the 9th and 16th centuries, Bukhara was the largest center for Muslim theology, particularly on Sufism in the Near East, with over 200 mosques and more than 100 madrasas. It is said that this historical city is also the birthplace of the legendary stories like the folk hero Nasreddin Effendi and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves in 1001 Nights also took place in this city. Train from Tashkent to Bukhara took almost 4 hours, and I arrived at Bukhara train station about 1 p.m. Train ticket was around $15. Mutara Hostel, located in the small alley of Bukhara Old Town. As soon as I arrived, I felt like I was in the legendary story scene of Ali Baba. I stayed at Mutara Homestay for 3 nights in a simple single room, and I loved both the living hall and courtyard. Within a few minutes' walk from hostel, I found this coffee house and had my first meal here. Both the beef doner and black tea with lemon were savory, and service was generally good in Uzbekistan. A few more minutes walk to reach the center of Bukhara, which is the Lyabi-Hauz square. Lyabi-Hauz is a small, picturesque pond surrounded by several historical monuments, open-air cafes and restaurants, shops and hotels. Madrasa Nadir Divan Begi is located in front of the pond. It was built in the 17th century on the order of Vizier Nadir and named after him. The facade borrowed the style of the Sherdor Madrasa in Samarkand, but instead of the famous lions, birds of happiness are depicted here. The famous statue of Khoja Nasreddin Effendi is right in front of the madrasa, and it's always crowded with tourists taking picture with him. Khoja Nasreddin Effendi is a legendary folk hero in Uzbekistan. He was an eloquent intellect, a master of his art, and a wonderful storyteller. Soviet writer Leonid Solovyov's novel tells about Nasreddin travels to Bukhara and enters the Bukhara emir's court, and it was filmed in 1942. Kulkaldosh Madrasa is the oldest building of the Lyabi-Hauz ensemble, which was erected in the 16th century. This is the largest madrasa in Bukhara with 130 cells, where up to 320 students could live. Today, they no longer teach here, but rather host dinners and folklore shows for tourists. Kanaka Nadir Divanbegi, located on the other side of the pond, and it was built in 17th century as a shelter for wandering dervishes. The cubic shape of the building gives it monumentality, and the facade, covered with bright and intricate mosaics, adds oriental charm. The Toki Sarafan is one of the 3 market domes still standing in the old center of Bukhara, which was built in 16th century. On the side of the pond is a long row of shops selling a variety of souvenirs, cafes, restaurants, and hotels. Bukhara Old City is not very huge, but it's ideal to stay at least 3 or 4 days here to explore every corner of this amazing and clean city. I had my first night dinner at Lyabi-Hauz restaurant by the pond. It's very crowded in the evening and difficult to get a seat indeed. Walking back to hostel at night in the alley was safe and it's well lit up. In part 2 of episode 6, there's more to explore in Bukhara Old City. Please subscribe and stay tuned.